Hello, this is Tony Heller from RealClimateScience.com. The World Economic Forum says that Costa Rica is going to save the planet from global warming. Now let's take a look at what's actually going on in Costa Rica. Costa Rica has a unique situation. The entire country is mountainous and they receive a lot of precipitation. They also have a lot of volcanoes. 72% of their electricity comes from hydroelectric and 15% from geothermal. And less than 1% of Costa Rica's energy production is from solar. Demand for oil is actually growing in Costa Rica due to reality. Let's take a closer look at what's being said here. This claim is extremely misleading. It says 98% of Costa Rica's power already comes from renewables. He's ignoring the transportation sector and not mentioning that the renewables are hydroelectric and geothermal rather than wind and solar. I was in Costa Rica 3 years ago, and I'm pretty certain that this banana boat is not operating off of wind or solar. For people who are worried about carbon dioxide, Costa Rica is essentially irrelevant. They produce about 0% of the world's CO2. Meanwhile, carbon dioxide emissions from China are skyrocketing. But they're not talking about China, instead they're talking about Costa Rica. In 1989, the United Nations said we only had until the year 2000 to save the planet from global warming. Governments have a 10-year window of opportunity to solve the greenhouse effect before it goes beyond human control. As the warming melts polar ice caps, ocean levels will rise by up to 3 feet, enough to cover the Maldives and other flat island nations. The year 2000 came and went, and nothing actually changed with the climate. The Maldives are still there. Since then, carbon dioxide emissions in the United States and Europe have been declining, but in China they've tripled. If the World Economic Forum and the United Nations were actually serious about cutting carbon dioxide levels, they'd be focused on China and Asia, not the United States and Europe, and particularly not on Costa Rica. The United Nations has made dozens of climate agreements over the last 30 years, none of which have done anything to slow the growth of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. There isn't one shred of evidence to support the idea that what the United Nations and World Economic Forum are doing is anything other than a massive scam. I took this picture on the beach in Costa Rica in March of 2020. Life was great in Costa Rica, but on the same day, the United States was going insane. People were hiding in their homes, and when I came back to Boulder that afternoon, this is what the supermarket looked like. This was the event which finally convinced me to leave Boulder and to leave Colorado. It may have saved my life because a few months later an angry Syrian refugee came into this grocery store and started killing people. So I'm grateful to Governor Polis for locking the state of Colorado down and convincing me to move to a state which believes in freedom, rule of law, and constitutional rights. We've been living happily in Wyoming ever since. Toto's been pulling back the curtain on the climate scam for the past 15 years. You can visit him, Kyrie Caesar, Toki Upla, and the 4 new puppies on the web at realclimatescience.com.